When I was in high school, when you got in trouble, you would get suspended, and if you got suspended, you had to memorize poetry to get back into class. And that, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, they know I went to Brophy, and that's what they used to do. They didn't make you do that anywhere else. But at one point, I memorized The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, etc. And I did get back into class, but I that was one I actually had fun memorizing.
And you
They
still
weren't always
remember it.
fun, but that one I did. And so I have a kind of a special fondness for the show that's opening up next week at Greasepaint Theater, Scottsdale. It's called Nevermore. It's actually an unforgettable new musical. Featuring, of course, the words of Edgar Allan Poe. So we're very happy to welcome to Valley Views a couple of the actors from the show and the director, as a matter of fact. So Maureen Watson, nice to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Maureen is the producing artistic director for Greasepaint and Scottsdale Community Players as well.
Right, Scottsdale Community Players and Greasepaint are together.
Okay,
One
together.
company.
And we'll talk about that.
You bet.
Also, we have a couple of the actors. Bennett Wood, you were our Poe, is that correct?
Yes, I am playing Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay, and Jacob Shore, and what is your role, Jacob?
I'm portraying Player One, who's kind of one of the acting narrators.
Okay, so you're in there now. Are you both? It's a musical. Are you singing and everything and so forth?
Yes.
We do, yes, both of us sing.
Okay, so that'll be fun. That'll be a little bit different, I would think, for this. And as I said, this is a new musical, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Maureen, let's remind people the Greasepaint and Scottsdale Community Players are not new.
Oh, my goodness,
Nor
no.
is the theater.
Scottsdale Community Players was it's the first community theater in Scottsdale. It was in the 50s when they formed. And they used to perform in a little one-room shack with a tin roof near where City Hall is now. And in 1965-66, they built the Stagebrush Theater with private funds. They collected all the money, and they built this beautiful theater, which still stands 50 years later. It has its issues. I'm 50. It's, aging is aging. But it's a beautiful old theater with a ton of history in it. And Scottsdale Community Players built that. Greasepaint came along in 1984. So now we're in our 32nd year of producing shows. And they're both great companies. And the theater itself is just, you fall in love with it. I mean, don't you fall in love with that theater, guys?
Absolutely.
It's just home.
Well, I have a little history there myself.
Yes.
In the late '60s, I was in a production of Man for All Seasons at the theater, and it was a very nice place to work and a great group of people at the time. So now we're talking about specifically in this case, though, we're talking about Greasepaint.
Right. In this case, it's Greasepaint. And Greasepaint actually now, we use children as young as 6, but we go all the way up through as long as you're still in college or college age. So Jacob and Bennett actually both are college juniors. I think the youngest person in our cast for Nevermore is 15. So the ages in Nevermore are 15 to 22. So it's not, it is Greasepaint Youth Theater, but our focus has always been on training. So we try to we do many of the shows for the younger students as well, but when something is interesting and is different as Nevermore comes along, and our sound designer, Peter Bish, actually is the one who brought it to me, and he was obsessed with it. Of course, he's an Edgar Allan Poe. Big fan. So I read it, and the kids were excited about it. We shot it out to all of them, and that's how it came about doing it. It's the first one, we'll be the first company to produce it in Arizona. It was done off Broadway. Did not make it to Broadway, but the producers actually have been following us on Facebook and wishing the cast good luck and all of those good things. So
One of the actual producer of the original off-Broadway production emailed me back the other day. I asked about getting our production on their Nevermore website, and she emailed me back after I got an email from the website people. She was the one who emailed me and said, "Congrats on getting the role. I'm so excited that you and your director love the show so much. I wish I could come out to Arizona to see it, but best of luck to everyone in your cast."
And that's great. Well, I was just thinking you can't have poetry without Poe.
yeah.
It's true.
How about that? Well, let's talk a little bit about the production, and I'll let the actors speak here for a bit. Bennett, give me a little bit of history. How much theater have you done?
I've been doing theater since I was a 7th grader. I went to Horizon Honors High School, technically Horizon Community Learning Center. It's a K-12 charter school in Ahwatukee. And I started theater in 7th grade, and I had no idea that community theater existed until I graduated because my parents didn't want me to leave my school because I was doing so well there. But then once I got into GCU, that's where I go to school at Grand Canyon, and I'm a theater major and a vocal performance double major. And there I started theater doing there, and then I reached out to community theaters as of last summer, and I've been looking around and trying to get into theaters all around the valley. So I've been doing theater for almost 9 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jacob, what about you?
Well, I first saw my first musical. It was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I saw it when I was 8 years old. And after the show, I said to my parents, I want to do this. And so since I was 8, I've been doing community shows and that sort of thing. But I always played baseball. So I had the two loves. I couldn't choose until my freshman year of high school. I was cast in the musical. We were doing You're in Town, which is a hysterical show.
It is it's better than the title.
Yes, it's much better than the title. So when I was cast in that musical, the coach of the baseball team told me, we can't have you on the team because you're going to miss all of the practices for rehearsals. And then I said to myself, what am I doing? Why am I staying? I love this. I love theater. So why am I sticking with baseball? So that's when I really decided to pursue theater. And since then, I've done more shows than I can count on two hands.
Well, that would have been a tough choice for me as well. But I think the choice was made for me. So the baseball was pretty much over before I really started doing the theater. So it wasn't a problem. So now this is a musical. So you're both singing.
Yes.
Correct.
And you both have done a lot of musical theater?
Yes. A lot.
All right. Tell me a little bit about the show.
Well, the show takes place, we're on a steamer headed for Boston, where Edgar Allan Poe is hopefully going to get a position as a chief editor of a new magazine. And the players are on that boat as well, heading to Boston to perform. And so Edgar Allan Poe has forgotten his past. He doesn't know who he is or where he came from. So the players are helping him remember by performing his life for him. And the more the show goes on, the more Edgar becomes engrossed in his past.
So this is later in his life.
Yes.
Correct.
Right before he died.
Right before he
I
dies.
see. And has he forgotten his past because he took a lot of things that make you forget? I mean,
A little bit.
He did his share of that kind of stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
Drinking and drugs and so forth.
He did, yes.
Yeah. Is that made clear in the show?
It is a little more than I would like, but yes.
Oh, really?
I think the drinking is more than...
Yeah.
I don't think there's any
There's not
drug
really
use in the show.
any drug abuse.
I heard
but
a
the
story
drinking
about
is a
him
lot.
once that when he was a child, his parents used to get him drunk and put him up on the bar and make have sport with look at this. I mean,
That's not in the show.
Well, and it's funny because there's so much information out there about Edgar Allan Poe, and the director Pete is just obsessed. I mean, I will say something, bring up something in the play, and he'll be like, "Well, in real life, they did this, and this went on for this long, and this person," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It's. I mean, I guess you can only skim the surface of this man's life in 2 hours, but it's remarkably poignant, and it's kind of terrifying.
yes.
I mean, it's all of those things.
Yeah.
It's a very dark, kind of haunting play, and the music is gorgeous, but it's all very in that same
It's dark
genre,
side.
that same
now,
feeling.
So the music. Does the music use his poetry as lyrics?
It does. The entire show is actually set to music, and we either speak in poetic prose, or we are singing his poetry or singing songs related to his or talking about his poetry.
So what are some of the works that we'll recognize in there?
Oh, I sing the entire Raven song as a song. The poem is sung, and the players and the actors all back me up during it.
And a lot of his short poems, too, like Alone is the opening of the show. And
Lenore's in
Lenore's in it. We
Annabelle
sing
Lee.
Annabelle Lee. A lot of his.
Those are ones that
famous
people would
poetry,
recognize.
yeah.
Sure.
All right. So Maureen, tell us a little bit about how people can see the show.
You can come. Let's see here. We open next Friday night at 7. It's the 28th. And so we have a show the 28th and 29th at 7 p.m. and 30th at 2 p.m. And then the following weekend, we only have 2 shows on Saturday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. August 5th. So there's 5 productions, 5 runs.
And remind people where the theater is exactly.
Theater is in the Old Town Scottsdale, 7020 East 2nd Street, right in the heart of downtown Old Scottsdale.
Okay. And how do we find you?
Website is greasepaint.org. and our phone number is 480-949-7529 for tickets.
Well, I know it's going to be a great show, and again, that's next weekend and the following weekend. And we want to say thanks to Maureen Watson. How long have you been there?
This time around, about 8 years.
This
I was
time
there
around.
before as
you were
well,
there
and
before.
left, and then couldn't. Yeah, I was
Couldn't
just
stay
kind of
away. Could
drawn
you?
back.
Well, good for you. And Bennett Wood and Jacob Shore. Where do you go to school?
Oh, I went to school. I went to high school at Horizon High School in Scottsdale, and now I go to college at Whittier College in Whittier, California.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
That's a lovely place.
It's beautiful. Weather's beautiful, and the theater program, actually, we just got ranked on the top 10 most underrated theater programs, which is huge for us because so little people know about us, but it's such a wonderful program.
And what's your mascot?
Oh, we're the Poets.
Oh, really? Perfect.
Yeah,
Oh.
I wore a shirt
Whittier
the other
Poets,
day
of
that
course.
said "Fear the Poet," and
Yeah.
it was.
That is just great. Well, thank you very much. And greasepaint.org.
Greasepaint.org.
There
Yep.
you go to get more information. And I guess we should say break a leg. Knock 'em
Thank
down.
you very much
much
for having us.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks
for
so
having
much,
us.
Mr. Manning.